Hello everyone, Donnie Wanders here, and today I have wandered to the McCurdy Woodlot Trail in Middle Musquodoboit, Nova Scotia. I wanted to check out this woodlot today because it is used as an educational site specifically for kids, but there's no reason adults can't also benefit from learning about forest management practice. So I know I checked online and found that there was a trail that kind of does a small loop around a part of this woodlot, and there's also some side trails. So that's what I am checking out today. This trail starts here at this large parking lot of a school. This is the Musquodoboit Valley Education Center. I really love how close the school is to all this great outdoor space. The trail so far, and I'm only about 100 meters in, is this gravel road. There's the school like right down there, and the first thing that you see on this trail is this pond, and this pond is actually a stocked pond, and it's used as a learn to fish facility. So they stock the pond and then bring kids and sometimes adults out here to learn to fish. And I fished that pond because one year when I did Nova Scotia, which is becoming an outdoors woman, I think the fishing program happened in that pond. I think it was regular fishing we did in there, not fly fishing. But I'm pretty sure everyone caught a fish too. So that's definitely an advantage of doing a learn to fish in a pond with stocked, hungry fish. I didn't realize it, but there is a parking lot dedicated to this trail. So I parked down at the school, maybe like a 2-minute walk away, just below that stocked fish pond. But this is really nice already. There is some signage and the ever critical pit toilet. But here's the sign. There are lots of these signs all along the trail, like every, I don't know, a few dozen meters, and they are educational signs about trees, about the habitat, and about managing woodlots. And this one says, trees grow, trees can get sick and develop problems, trees get old and die like all living things, and trees are made of wood. So to take care of forests and towns, to keep people safe, and to get wood, people cut some trees down. We may not want to, but sometimes we need to. So the signs are definitely geared for children. This is an educational woodlot, but I think it's really useful for adults too. There's, I've seen a few signs that have said, the bugs that live in trees can do this and that, and they help break down old debris and tree matter. So I think even though it's a very simple and simplified message, definitely good for both kids and adults. The trail is quite muddy, so if you come here, I would recommend suitable footwear, especially right now because we have had lots and lots of rain recently. But I'm doing this just like in sneakers, so just kind of choosing where I step carefully, but rubber boots would definitely have been a better choice in here. It's so nice and calm and quiet. There have been a few spots where I've passed numbers on the trees, so this one is number 6, but this is the first sign that I've seen that says who planted these trees. So this is kind of fun. It says red spruce planted April 1989, area 0.06 hectares by Lakeview Consolidated, grade 2 class, and the Upper Musquodoboit Consolidated, grades 1 through 3. So if you were in either of those classes and you participated in planting this small section of red spruce, leave me a note in the comments. I would love to know what that day was like, the day they took a bunch of kids out and taught them all about planting trees. It looks like the trees are doing very well, by the way. I'm at the far end of the red loop, and it opens up into this kind of like a picnic space. So there are some like picnic shelters, and looks like there are some pit toilets just down here. This portion of the trail is pretty much just this gravel road, but all along the trail, like on the first part of the loop, there are all these little side trails, other than those, I think, that are marked on the map at the trailhead. And these little trails are perfect for just doing a quick little exploration inside of. So this little one, it looks like it doesn't really go anywhere. Just in here, into this very wet, like a wetland area. It's very mossy. Oh, and the trail continues on that way. I suspect it just goes back up to, like, up there is where the kind of the open area is with the pit toilets and the shed. So this is well suited for, I think, education programs involving like groups of kids, because you could break off into little groups and go into each of these little side trails and talk about various aspects of forest management. I just opened up my All Trails app to see where I was, and look where I am. The blue dot in the middle is me, and apparently this trail continues as like a trail. So this gravel road that I'm on, it's not the trail. So what I'm doing is I'm going to turn around, head back up to that open area where the shelters and the picnic tables are, and the pit toilets, and take the proper trail. I feel like I've cheated taking this road out. It's not very far. I think it's maybe I don't know, half a kilometer. Like it'll only take me a couple of minutes to get back up to that section and take the proper trail out. That's how easy this trail is. If you get lost on a road, you can just turn around and redo it. It's not very big, and it's definitely not very strenuous. I'm back on the right trail, not lost anymore. I saw the trail like as I was leaving that open area the first time, and just thought it was like a side trail. I didn't realize it was the trail that I wanted to take, and I didn't check the map. So my fault, but that was like a, I don't know, 5-minute detour, not very long. There's a bench coming up just in front of me, and a gigantic tree. And I find this very interesting. Have a look at how tall this tree is. I think it's a hemlock, but I don't really know. Like, I'm not a good tree identifier. it's gotta be so old. And the other cool tree here is this one, which I think is probably a yellow birch. Again, even though I'm pretty outdoorsy, I'm really, really bad at naming trees. And I like seeing these two trees because they're different from everything else. So look at the rest of this this area. It's this just awful, scrubby forest. And I say awful because I hate walking through it. Like, I like if there's a path. But occasionally in my job or when I'm fishing, I have to walk through trees like that to get access to water courses. And these trees are, this side is not that bad, but this side is so thick. It's kind of ugly. There's too many of them all together, I think. Like, look how thick this is. And this, the reason that these trees are like this is probably because this whole area was likely clear cut at some point, and then that gave the opportunity for these trees, which I think are spruce trees, to grow back up. Now, why that birch tree, like right there, and why this really large, beautiful tree were not harvested at the time, I don't know. Like, I don't know why you would cut down probably everything else in the area, but not those two trees. And I don't know how old the birch tree is. I don't think they're super old trees, like they don't live to be super old, but I'm not sure about that one either. Anyway, this stuff, like, I hope that whoever is doing the education portion in here talks about how terrible this forest is. If you want to enjoy an outdoorsy life in the forest, this stuff sucks. And it's everywhere in Nova Scotia. Like, there's not a lot of old growth in Nova Scotia, which is the other reason that it like kind of infuriates me, because an old growth forest is like, oh, like here's another huge tree. And huge trees like this, they take up a lot of real estate. So other trees can't typically crowd in around them, although this one is looking pretty crowded, which means that the forest itself is typically far more open and easy to walk through than like this stuff, which is super thick and is a real pain in the butt to walk through. Anyway, that's my rant about forestry practice. The other part of that is that so much clear cutting happens on Crown land, and Crown land is land that belongs to the province. It's public land. So when I think of Crown land, I think like, that's my land. I live here. It's my province. That's my land. And I hate that I don't get to use it because it's often leased out to forestry companies who just like clear cut it and don't really care that there are people like me who, like, I think I have just as much a right to it if it's Crown land. It just really bothers me, just because it's so much of it and it's so pervasive. And I realize that maybe it's kind of a selfish thing to think that like I have more right to it than the lumber companies, but that's how I feel. It's also mine. So why am I not being accommodated with the forestry practices? But I just want to show you what I'm talking about when I say new growth forest is really difficult to walk through. So behind me, you can see super thick. Let's imagine for a second that I'm out trying to fish and I know there's a lake in there and it's on Crown land and I have to walk through this to get to it. So look how hard this is and horrible this is. So I can make it to here. Like, this is just constant. I don't even know if you can see me. It's so thick. But when you're walking through new growth forest, it's just constantly getting poked with sticks and trying to move brush out of the way and trying to just like make your way through. And I just came out a different path because it was a little bit easier. But yeah, it's like a lot of getting poked in the face. And I guess like my point is old growth forest is so much easier to walk through and to enjoy. This is really unpleasant to be in. So yeah, that's my problem with new growth forests. And I guess the bigger issue is not that that there are some new growth forests. The bigger issue is that it exists. It's so prevalent across this province. And in my opinion, the forestry legislation and forestry policies heavily favor pulp and paper companies. And when pulp and paper companies were based in Nova Scotia, I might have been okay with them clear cutting everything. But a lot of pulp and paper companies buy the wood and they harvest it for a really cheap price, and they take it away from here, or they process it here, and then they sell it elsewhere. And those companies are international companies. They are not local. They do support some local forestry, I get that, but they're buying wood at a very reduced rate, and they're getting rich, and I'm walking through this, and it pisses me off. Just a little ways along the trail past the scrubby new growth forest is this forest, which is not old growth. It's probably a medium growth, and it's right off the trail. And it's fairly open, which I really appreciate. I'm not going to walk through there. I'm not going to demonstrate how easy it is to walk through there and not get poked in the face with branches. But it looks like this forest, if you look down, you can see all these like really old tree stumps kind of, well, all through it actually. So it's been thinned out mechanically, but it does make for much nicer forest, nice habitat for animals, and nice habitat for people like me who get very cranky when I see a bunch of when I see the evidence of a clear cut. I'm coming to the end of the trail. Just behind this gate behind me is the main parking area, but there's a very sweet facility at this trail that I want to show you before we go. So this is a play space that the Department of Natural Resources has put together. There's a sign here, I think it says along with the Cobequid Trails Association. And it's like a woodsy playground. And we have this gazebo in front here. There's a sign here that is dedicated to the sponsors. And it looks like it's well used, even though there are no kids here today. There is some pretty basic playground equipment, and there's a sandbox here with lots of building toys. There's a couple of tables that have sinks that are in them. And then there's a slide there. There's some log benches, I think, over here. Picnic tables here. Yeah, and there's toys here, which I find really kind of neat. So I guess they just live here, for building. Mud pies and sand castles, I guess. Some log structures that would be really fun to climb on if you were a kid. This culvert is fun because you can climb through it or over it. So that's kind of fun. And then up here, which I tried to climb up earlier, but the ladder is not, the ladder is in good shape, but at the very top of it, I think there's some pieces missing. But this structure right here next to this tiny little pond, and this says fire tower. So if you climbed up there, you would be looking out over the Musquodoboit Valley, and there is a really good view, even though I'm not able to climb up that fire tower. But just beyond here, nice view of the valley, partially obscured by trees, but that's pretty typical in Nova Scotia. We have no shortage of trees. And then I just threw my backpack on this picnic table while I explored. So that's what that is, some big old rocks just sitting here. Again, really fun for climbing if you are a little kid. Not fun for an old, cranky grown-up who just doesn't really like climbing and being silly in that way. This little structure is pretty cute. It's like a little hidey hole that you could just kind of like crawl in, and again you could crawl up and over. And then over here we have just some woodsy play space, and this is quite cool. There's a lean-to. So someone has built a lean-to. I don't know if this was a class project or who would have built this, but it looks pretty great. Let's get inside. Okay, I'm just crawling into this teeny little lean-to here. A tiny little hidey hole. Oh yeah. This is sweet. Whoever built this did a great job. And let me just show you around inside the lean-to. There's some spruce boughs on the outside that could be replaced. And then this tiny little log chair. It's very tight in here, so I'm not sure that you can actually see what I'm trying to show you, but there is like a little log chair that if you had a small bum, you could easily fit in that, but I will not be wedging myself into that. So yeah, cool lean-to. And then it looks like there's another lean-to over here that has not survived the winter, but that's really fun. And yeah, this whole space I think is really fun. It's sort of like a natural playground. I'm just leaving that great play space behind me and headed back to the parking lot. So far I have walked about 4.8 kilometers, so by the time I get back to the parking lot it'll be about 5. A very cool facility. I would highly recommend this to anyone, particularly if you have little kids. You could bring them here and have a ton of fun. And what's really great, not only is there like, you know, trails and that play space, but there are a few pit toilets around here as well. It's like super easy and super accessible. So I really enjoyed that. And I think you would too if you're ever here in the Musquodoboit area. Thanks for watching, and Donnie Wanders will see you in the next one.